Shannon, what was your reaction to what Doc said?
My reaction to what Doc said was the very thing that Doc said, and I tweeted it before Doc had an opportunity to speak. And Skip, what we got an opportunity to see yesterday is two different Americas. And why the NBA and the WNBA and so many people around the country, especially blacks, have been taken to the streets. It says we're treated differently. Now, we hear what you tell us, that America is the land of, and America is great. But we're saying we're treated differently in similar circumstances as white people. We're seeing it. And Skip, everybody got an opportunity, just like the George Floyd, we saw the man life leave his body on live television. We saw yesterday on live television two different Americas. And what we saw is that white America doing rioting and looting, the Capitol. Skip, if this was a third world country, and I'm old enough to remember that when in Iran, when they overthrew the government, and I saw the people storm the embassy. Mm-hmm. I remember that. I remember seeing in banana republics where they overthrow and they hold the government hostage and they say, leave or else. That's what it was yesterday. This was sedition, Skip. This is what they're trying to do, is overthrow a government by using force. That's treasonous. You can't do, Skip, you can't, because your candidate lost her. Skip, this is not a dictatorship. This is a democracy. And what it says, the Constitution says, whomever gets the most votes, because Skip, you know, back when they set it up, mm-hmm. people ran against each other. Whoever got the most votes was president. Whoever got the next most votes was vice president. That's how it worked. But somehow along the way, the man that's in office has convinced the people, if I lose, it's a rigged election. Well, what happens if you win? The people love me. A lot of the people, the enablers, from the senators to the Republicans, Skip, have enabled him. They were on the very ticket that he lost on, but they won. Theirs was legit, his was rigged. I heard Jaylen Brown and I heard Jason Tatum, and what they're saying is, how is it now that white America, that we've been asking you to hear us and say there's two different Americas, and you tell us, no, everything's the same. Skip, I want to ask this. If you're not going to treat white America like you treat black America, can you treat black America like you treat white America? I'm not saying they should have been shot. I'm not saying they should have been tear gassed. I'm not sure they should have been pepper sprayed. But if they shouldn't have been that, should blacks get that treatment? That's all we're asking, is to be fair about it. Skip, now we saw this earlier, Skip. We saw this in Lansing. We saw them storm the Capitol with their long rifles and their gun and shut it down. Now, we saw this. He was like, oh, well, you know, that's just an isolated. Still remember now, the term they like to use is isolated. Man, that's an isolated incident. We saw what transpired when in Charlottesville. Well, you know, there's nice people, there's good people on both sides. But this is what happens when you enable a person and you allow them to create Godzilla. And then when Godzilla starts trampling the city, oh my God, how could Godzilla do that? Mm-hmm. You made him. You created this. And the black athletes says, you know what? We've been trying to tell you. But because it's never happened, what's happened to some of us has never happened to you, you don't believe it. You don't believe that blacks are treated differently. Skip, it's amazing how when you don't want to confront someone, when you don't want to harm someone, the lengths that you will go through to make sure you don't do that. Now, I saw them help a lady. Skip, I don't know how she got up in the building to begin with, but they had to help her down the stairs. Now, I saw them push a Black Lives Matter protester to the ground and split his head open. I'm like, hold on, wait a minute. I see police inside the Capitol taking selfies with some of the rioters. They're not protesting because I don't understand what they protest. You lost the race. You see what the lengths someone will go through, Skip? If I don't want to harm you, I'll go the extra mile. I see security running back up. They got handguns. He got a hand on his gun now. He never felt in fear for his life. He didn't shoot anybody. Now, one woman did get shot in the Capitol, but I'm like, and as Doc said, I just want to know, Skip. I just want someone to tell me. And I want you to explain it to me like I need to be like 10 or 11. So I'm old enough to understand, but not so much to have formed this a great of an opinion. If 10,000 whites, blacks, as Doc said, had stormed the Capitol when they're going through the process to certify an incoming president, if 10,000 blacks had convened on the Capitol and took it over, do you think the reaction would have been similar or would have been greater? And that's what black athletes, that's what Doc's talking about. That's what Jaylen Brown is talking about. That's what has Michelle Roberts, the head of the NBA PA skill, that's what has her seething. These two Americas that we've been telling you that's been in place for 400 years, and you keep telling us no, 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 and now we got a chance to see. What are you going to do about it, America? Because we saw it, and you saw it. I'm good.
You good?
Yes.
I love everything you just said. I believe with all my heart and soul in every point you made. And I have echoed all your emotions for months and years on this show. But in this case, this very rare and unique case of what happened yesterday, I'm not sure any of that really applies to this, because this was an historically, shamefully, shockingly, dangerously unique moment in the history of this country. Our Capitol building got stormed because the man who still sits in the Oval Office wanted it to happen.
Yes.
Simple as that. So this wasn't some garden variety white protest. Let's say a bunch of white people showed up outside the Capitol protesting animal cruelty. And they went over the edge and they stormed the White House and they were allowed to sashay all the way into the Senate chamber. Did that happen yet? Nope, that's not what happened. Can I remind everybody of what happened back on June 13th? Remember that fateful night when our president, who still has about 13 days left?
20th, so whatever the day is for 2 weeks.
Okay, 2 weeks left. 2 very dangerous weeks left. Do you remember that he decided he wanted a photo op at St. John's Church across the street from the White House?
Yes.
And there was a whole bunch of Black Lives Matter protesters.
They were just standing.
Just standing. And it was about 50-50 black and white people. Yes. And all of a sudden, under orders from the Oval Office, here come the riot police. And they are dressed to, quote unquote, kill. Do you remember this?
Yes.
And they resorted to using all kinds of tear gas and
pepper spray,
flash grenades and pepper spray and rubber bullets.
Yes.
They didn't just disperse it. They just annihilated it.
Yes.
They had people running for their lives just so our president could walk across the street and hold a Bible upside down, act by accident, to take some phony baloney photo op picture. Yes. Okay, I just want to keep everybody's head in perspective here. So then what did our president do back on December 19th? He tweeted that big protest in D.C. coming on January the 6th, which happened to be yesterday. Be there, period, be wild. Tweeted our president.
Yes.
Tweets like this got him banned from Twitter for 12 hours yesterday.
You tweet something like that, you're banned from Twitter forever.
Lord have mercy, would I be? Okay, be wild, he said. And so his zealots, what are left of them, they showed up in force yesterday in a little park not that far from the White House yesterday morning, and it was called Save America Rally. Okay. And obviously he spoke. And he spoke for over an hour to them, and he reiterated that they stole the election from us.
Yes.
So he is inciting his rioters. And he said, we are now going to march down the street to the Capitol building. He directed this whole group of people, I don't know how many thousands there were. We're going to march to the Capitol, and all but instigated what was about to happen.
And cheer on our congressmen that's fighting for
fighting for right, for this election result to be overturned.
Correct.
Because he thought his vice president was going to march before the Senate and the House and say, this must be overturned. And I don't know what he was thinking was going to happen, but he actually conveyed to his zealots that this was the magical day in which the election result was going to be overturned. And they march down the street. They're already revved up to the point of chaos. And what happens? Help me out here. What are two of the most impenetrable structures in strongholds in our country? Well, one would be the White House, and the other would be the Capitol building.
Correct.
And under any other circumstance, any other day of the year, if any group, I don't care what color you are, if you come up in mass and you threaten to storm the gates, I promise you bad things are going to happen. I agree with you. If it's all black people, yeah, then you got a big problem.
Yeah, thank you.
I got it. I'm with you. But trust me on this. Even if you're just a bunch of white people who don't have anything to do with that president sitting in that Oval Office, you're going to have big problems too. Okay, now help me out here. Here's the key detail to all of the above. These rioters, let's call them rioters. Draymond Green called them last night terrorists.
Yes.
They're
domestic terrorists.
Yes, okay. Whatever you want to call them, they're traitorous terrorists, however you want to describe them, because they're not protesters. Were any of them brandishing weapons? Did any of them have machine guns or even drawn handguns or rifles or any? I saw none. I could have been wrong, but I saw none.
But they said they confiscated.
Okay.
They did find bombs outside the Republicans.
Okay, they found 2 pipe bombs.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure that they left inside the Capitol building.
Yes.
Okay, but I'm talking about when you have a palace coup, it requires brandishing machine guns. It requires bazookas, right?
I think the biggest thing, what they caught was what they did, the way they were able to pull this off is that they caught them by surprise. And how you catch somebody by surprise?
You can't catch it. It was a planned rally.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
He told them to come on January the 6th.
Okay.
It's like, Skip, you remember back in the 90s when they had the Million Man March?
Yes.
When Mr. Farrakhan told them they have the Million Man, they were prepared for that date.
Okay.
President Trump said January 6th is going to be our date.
Okay. Here's my bottom line to what happened. They were allowed to sashay right through whatever guards there were, whatever cops there were. Yeah. They were allowed to break some windows and scale up onto the balconies to invade all the way into the Senate chamber.
Right.
Okay. It was allowed because it was an inside job. Yeah. Trust me on this. Again, I don't have any inside info. But somebody had to send down word, let them be.
Yeah, when
they
was opening the barricade, they were letting them through.
Because if the word came down from the Oval Office, they shall not be allowed. Trust me, they won't be allowed because they didn't have any firepower at their beck and call. It wasn't like they came in tanks or anything.
Right.
They had nothing.
Right.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Help me out. It's the Capitol building. How are a bunch of people with no guns, no rifles, no machine guns, no bazookas, how were they allowed just to pretty much wander right into the Capitol building?
You know
it's because he sent down word, it shall be allowed.
And guess what, Skip? I look like you, so I can blend in with you.
Okay.
So a lot of those guys that's on the force, they support President Trump. And what these rioters and terrorists was coming to do was show support for President Trump. It's easy.
Okay, I got it. And the people guarding the Capitol obviously are at that point in their back of their minds, they're still working for the sitting president.
Yes.
So whatever the order is, we will follow the order. And by the way, where was the National Guard, the D.C. area National Guard? Well, supposedly they had been called and they didn't show up for about 4 more hours because I think word came down they shall not be allowed.
Down.
Okay?
Yes.
Stand down.
Yes.
Because you bring in the National Guard, you got big problems for these rioters, right?
But that's what I'm saying, Skip. You see the amount of refrain?
Okay. Well, what I'm saying,
shown?
this is a unique, this is a last desperate act of a man upstairs who, to me, forgive me for saying, I don't follow politics like you, but I'm just looking at it from afar, has turned into a madman.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a desperate act.
Skip, he's always been this.
Okay.
But think about what power does, Skip.
Okay.
You don't want to give that up.
It corrupts absolutely.
Yes.
Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And it has and it does. Okay, so I said it's a last desperate act, and I'm just hoping it's the last desperate act. He did, our president, sent out a message overnight, which he said, we will have an orderly transition on January 20th. Well, I sure hope that we can make it to the orderly transition.
Can I ask you a question, Skip? So Twitter suspends his account for 12 hours, but does he still have access to that football? And you know what the football is, right? The nuclear code.
Yeah.
So let me get this straight.
Well, let's not even
social
go
media.
there. I don't want you even to go there. I'm not going to.
Let me tell you something, Skip. I'm going to be all the way 1,000% with you. The reason why this was allowed to happen because white people in America have always gotten what they wanted. And for the very first time, people have spoken out and says, no, we want someone else. And they says, look, we want him. Well, you can't have him. It's like this. We want your lands, Native Americans, so we took it. Blacks, we want you to do this. We want this. Oh, we're going to burn it down. They burn it down. So they've always gotten what they want. And for the first time, Skip, they couldn't overturn the election. He could find no avenues. Court after court, Republican, Democrat appointed judges said, no way. The people have spoken. And so for now, what's my last ditch effort, Skip? The reason why President Trump loves dictators, Skip, you remember Vladimir Putin had given up his power, but he missed it so bad he appointed himself back and said, you know what? I want to serve until the year 2037. All the guys in China and North Korea, that's what he loves, Skip. That's what he craves. But in America, we have a democracy where we vote for the president every 4 years. Skip, I don't care what anybody says. It could have been an inside job. It could have been an outside job. We know this 1,000% for certain. If those were black, it would have never, ever happened. As my good friend Mark Lamont Hill said, if blacks were having a conversation about convening in the Capitol building, they'd have shut it down.
Okay. Now, for the record, let's be 1,000% real. A woman got shot and killed. She got shot in the neck.
Right.
And 3 others of these rioters died, and it has not yet been reported yet exactly how they died under medical emergency. I assume they got hit. They got struck by a billy club. I don't know what happened, but these are all 4 died inside. So this was not a bloodless coup, so to speak. And there were reportedly 52 arrests. So it wasn't like they were allowed to just have their way. Once they got inside, some bad things started happening, just for the record. Not enough, but you know what I'm, and again, I'm not advocating they all get shot, like you said. Okay, but I also want to make it clear that you saw, and you're a lot more political than I, but do you realize every last ally of our sitting president right now, everybody turned on him yesterday through the day, including his vice president? You know that.
Yes.
And as you always talk about Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell, they turned on him. Yeah. Everybody turned on him. He has no ally left that I can see. And this was the final straw for a lot of people. And I was thinking last night, I have no idea, but we always talk about how Robert Kraft is one of the closest friends of Donald Trump. I will bet you know Mr. Kraft pretty well. I know Jerry Jones pretty well. He's close with Donald Trump. I will bet you both of those men sat back yesterday and said, what is he doing?
You know what?
And had second thoughts about him.
But I hold Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell and Tim Scott and Jerry Jones and Mr. Kraft, I hold them culpable because they enabled him for 4 years. And it wasn't until Godzilla started trampling the city that they turned their back. They had Skip. They know the meeting that he had with the Russians was wrong, but they forgave him. They knew the call that he had with the Ukrainian President Zelensky was wrong, and they forgave him. They knew, Skip, he called the Secretary of Georgia, the state of Georgia, about can you find me 11,780 votes? They knew it was wrong, yet they said nothing. It wasn't until all those people that looked like them stormed the Capitol and they had to usher 70 and 80-year-old men and women down to safety.
They did.
That it bothered them enough.
I agree.
This was brewing. The storm was Skip. It's been flashing for a long time. How long will your check engine light stay on before you go to see the mechanic? How long?
Good point. Good question.
And guess what? It wasn't until the engine blew up, put you downside the road that you said, I need to do something. It wasn't until it took this for Lindsey Graham, Mitch McConnell, Ted Cruz.
It took this.
And some of them still went along with it and tried to object to certification. Look at the House.
But a majority of the Republicans said no. Late when they reconvened, they were all going to stage their bids to stop the electoral.
Kelly Loeffler, who lost to Raphael Warnock, said, you know, she couldn't in good conscience, vote to decertify the electors. But you could when you thought it was beneficial for you.
Well, sure.
You see what it is? Now, guess what? President Trump, Lindsey Graham has no more pull because they lost control of the Senate. Mitch McConnell has no more pull. They're going to be just guys now in the background. So President Trump can serve them no good. They want to eat him up.
That is true.
Now, if you want to see, now you think that was bad yesterday?
Yep.
Let him try to invoke that 25th Amendment and get his butt out of office before these 14 days up, and you watch what happened. They will sure enough act a fool.
I heard a lot of 25th Amendment.
Yeah,
yesterday.
I heard a lot of it too. But Skip,
I'm just not sure you can execute the proceedings fast enough before the 14, it's really 13 days are out. It's like, well, it's finite already.
Yeah.
He's going to get, quote unquote, impeached on January 20th, right?
Skip, we were thinking after the election, what could he do?
Well, there you
We
go.
saw what he's capable of doing. He incited this. Even Skip, he was doing this at his campaign rallies. He said, bust him up, beat him up, and police officers, don't be too nice to him. You know how you drag, you push his head down and you do it gently, just throw him in there. He's been inciting violence, but his enablers, that's not what he meant. Well, that's what he said. And he said, take me at my word. When I say something, I mean that. He tweets something, he means that. But they did maneuvering and gymnastics. That's not what he meant. He's not inciting violence. What he did yesterday, Skip, they throw people in jail for that.
Yep, I agree. And then remember, mid-afternoon, he posted a video message via Twitter.
Yes.
And he again reiterated, they stole the election from us, and we actually won in a landslide? A landslide? Like, come on. Now you've completely lost it. And what did he end up saying in the message? You people go home, but you're very special.
Thank you.
Very special. Those people that I saw sitting in Nancy Pelosi's office.
And stealing the lectern, and they walking out of stuff. They got all kinds. Skip, he keeps saying, I got the most votes for an incumbent president in the history of in the presidency. But he failed to mention that he lost to a guy that got the most votes in the history of an election. So you got the most for an incumbent, but somebody got the most in the history of the presidency of the election. He got more. Skip, you lost the Electoral College and you lost the popular vote.
Right.
How did they steal it? Why not steal it from Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham, who was also on that ticket?
Yep.
We're not going to steal it from them. You just want you.
So bottom line, nothing like that has happened to our Capitol building since the British burned it down in 1814. They also burned down the White House and the Treasury building.
Yes.
And that will remain on the legacy of what's left of our president.
It will. That's on his legacy, Skip. But you remember, I think it was in maybe late 90s, early 2000, two Capitol officers was killed. And they changed the protocols of how you can go and come into the Capitol. Skip, we know, like I said, what was on display yesterday is the two different Americas and that we live in. And hopefully, people that says, no, everybody is treated the same and everybody's equal, I think they got an opportunity to see. Because you and I both know, if that, man, I don't even want to know what would happen. But it'd have been more than 4. It'd have been more like 400. Skip, the Capitol, those are the two most, as you said, the two most sacred places in D.C. Because one housed the president and the other housed the lawmakers that enacts the laws that governs the land. So they will be protected at all costs.
All costs. Yep.
Oh, the images were alarming. I mean, it was a dark day in American history, guys, and we're not finished talking about yesterday's events in the nation's capital and the reaction really around the world of sports, because there were so many reactions and many athletes not shying away from what's going on in our country. More Undisputed when we return.
Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here to get the latest from the show, and be sure to check out more of the best clips from Undisputed, or go watch a few other segments from our other shows on FS1.